Hello everyone. I want you to try this passage followed by three questions on your own. Pause this video, take as much time as possible, and then come back for the explanation. I assume here that you have gone through the passage followed by three questions. Now I want you to watch the explanation, see how you should arrive at the correct answers. Now, here the passage is abstract, based on literature, based on a novel. So it may happen that you will feel that you have not read such passage before, or this is something difficult to understand. It can happen, but still I think that solving questions is not difficult. Remember, when the passage is difficult, abstract, a little bit philosophical, don't force yourself to understand each and everything. Even if you understand the passage in bits and pieces, right? Even if you understand the passage a little, go to the questions directly. At least attempt the specific questions. And when you attempt the specific question, when you know that the answer of a specific question lies in a particular part of the passage, read that part, read that part later, read that part later. Now, let's look at here the first passage. I mean the last line of the passage. Here there is a but. Now that but suggests here that Wuthering Heights has recalcitrant elements. Now it may happen that you don't know how to pronounce this word. You don't have to pronounce. You can simply say WH. WH has recalcitrant elements. Let's say you don't know what recalcitrant means, right? You can at least understand here that the passage says that it has undeniable power. Recalcitrant means very strong, stubborn, right? So this novel has undeniable power that resists inclusion. So it resists something, right? It opposes something. Opposes what? Inclusion. Inclusion in an all encompassing interpretation. So all encompassing. So an interpretation which is including everything, right? Which is including everything. So such interpretation is resisted by the novel. That's it. That's, even if you understand this, it is enough. Now then you should start solving the question, right? Even if you pick up this important but word, then you should realize that the author is talking about some great power this particular novel has. It resists something. Even if you understand in this way, that's fine. You should start attempting the questions directly. Now here there is no main idea question here. All these questions are a bit specific. Now, let me start with the question number one. According to the passage, which of the following is a true statement about the first and second parts of Wuthering Heights, about this novel, first and second part? Now, this is a specific question. This is a specific question, right? This is a specific question. Now this specific question, right, is based on this specific statement given at the beginning. Many critics of Emily Bronte's novel Wuthering Heights see its second part as a counterpoint. So second part, a counterpoint. A second part, a counterpoint that comments on. So what comments on second part? Second part comments on what? On the first part. Now forget this, whatever that is written in the comma, right? It has this if it does not reverse, right? That's a condition. But when you understand something initially, you don't have to understand everything at the moment. In the first place, you don't have to understand everything in the first attempt. Understand step by step. So I will even drop this word counterpoint. I will understand in this way. Second part comments on the first part. Okay, you have understood this. So second part of the novel. So even you can draw this diagrammatically, right? You can draw this diagrammatically. So this is the second part and this is the first part of the novel. So this second part is a comment on the first part. Second part is a comment on the first part, right? And it says first part where a romantic reading receives more confirmation. Now the word romantic is written in the inverted comma. Now remember, when author puts something in the inverted comma, you should understand that the author may have some different meaning of the word romantic, or he may don't agree with the word romantic. You should simply understand. You should take note of the fact that the author has put the word in the inverted comma. It means that he wants to say something different. What he wants to say, we don't know it exactly. We should understand here that it should not be taken literally. It should not be taken literally, right? So here, you should pick up this particular word romantic, which is written in the inverted comma, right? So the first part where a romantic reading receives more confirmation. So the first part receives more romantic confirmation than the second part, right? First part First part is a part where romantic reading receives more confirmation than the second part. Now, which option says this? Which option says this? Now, it is the last option that says this. So, the answer of this question is last option D, because it is written here the second part provides less substantiation for a romantic reading. Now, when you say that in the first part romantic reading is more than the second part, which means that the second part receives less romantic confirmation. That is what is written here. So the D option is exactly opposite to what is written in the in the paragraph, without changing the meaning, obviously. So the answer of this question number 1 is D. The other options are irrelevant. The second part has received more attention from critics, not written. Nothing is mentioned about critics. The second part has little relation to the first part. Now, little. Now, when you say little without article a, when you say a little means some. And little without article means hardly any. Okay, remember this, hardly any. So the second part has little relation, means the second part has hardly any relation to the first part. Now that is not true. In fact, it is written here that the second part comments on first part. So there is some relation. So second B option is contradicting what is written in the paragraph. So the second option is eliminated. C option, the second part annuls, right? Which means that it sort of destroys the force of the first part. Force, nothing about force is written in the passage. So the answer of question number 1 is last option D. Now let's look at the question number 2. Which of the following inferences about Henry James' awareness of novelistic construction is best supported by the passage? Okay, the question is about Henry James' awareness. Henry James' awareness of novelistic construction. Now, Henry James is mentioned here. Henry James is mentioned, right? Here, Henry James is mentioned. Now, what is written about Henry James here? Henry James, right? Let us look at, the question is about Henry James' awareness of novelistic construction. So let us read this particular part. Granted that the presence of these elements need not argue an authorial awareness of novelistic construction comparable to that of Henry James, which means that Henry James has authorial awareness of novelistic construction. And this novel, Emily Bronte's novelistic construction should not argue an authorial awareness of novelistic construction comparable to that of means awareness of Henry James' awareness of novelistic construction. So Henry James' awareness of novelistic construction and Emily Bronte's awareness of novelistic construction. The author says there cannot be any comparison. There cannot be comparison. So which means that Henry James has fairly good awareness of novelistic constructions. We can say that if they cannot be compared. So the answer of here, question number 2, is option B, that James was very aware of the details of novelistic construction. The second option B is the answer. Option A, James more than any other novelist was aware of the difficulties of novelistic construction. First, difficulties is not discussed in the paragraph. Plus, James more than any other novelist, which means that James was kind of best in terms of awareness. Now, James is compared here with Emily Bronte, not with any other novelist. So this is too general. This particular option A is too general, and it is also a bit, what you can say extreme. So option A is eliminated. Now let us look at option C and D. James' awareness of novelistic construction derived from his reading of Bronte. Nowhere in the passage it is written that James has read, the work of Emily Bronte. So option C is eliminated. D. James' awareness of novelistic construction has led most commentators to see unity in his individual novels. This is irrelevant because there is nothing about James' individual novels has been discussed, right? So D is eliminated. D option is eliminated. The answer of question number 2 is here, the second option B. Now let us look at option number 3. The author of the passage, question number 3. The author of the passage would be most likely to agree with an interpretation of a novel. Now look at here. The question is general, an interpretation of a novel. This question is not about the novel discussed or discussed in the passage. The passage has discussed one novel, and that Wuthering Heights, right? So it is not about that particular novel. It is about any novel, a novel. So the question is general. So the answer should also be general. We should look for that sentence which talk about interpretation of a novel in general, and it is written here, any novel. If you look at here, what is written in the bracket here is any novel. Any novel is a novel in general. And what is written about interpretation of any novel? Rigidity in any interpretation of this or any novel is always a danger. So don't be rigid in interpretation of any novel. We should not be rigid, which means we should be flexible. So that is what is the answer of the question number B. Interpretation of a novel should be flexible. It should be flexible in its treatment. Now, no other option talks about this flexibility. So the answer of question number 3 is only option B.